again. Um, Sorry for the delay in this third part of Is the PS4 more powerful than the Xbox One? Um, Things a lot have been going on lately. That's why this part has been delayed so long. But I thank you for your patience, and I thank you for subscribing. I thank you for just coming along on this journey with me. I first want to give a shout out to Anchorman V for his support. He helped me. He gave me a shout out in one of his last videos. And I thank him for that. And I thank him for the support that he's given me in my channel. Uh, and I also want to give a shout out to Xbox 448. Xbox 448. Go check his channel. I'm going to leave the um, channel in the description so you can check him out. He's a real good dude. And also other YouTubers in the Xbox One community and the Xbox community that have been, so good to me as far as talk with me and everything. And it's a good community to be a part of. But anyway, let's get on with this here series. This will probably be the last video of the series because I want to tackle more um, other issues as far as what's going on in gaming and gaming industry and stuff. From more of a technical perspective, so you can understand exactly what's going on. Get outside the propaganda, what's gaming journalists and what people want you to believe, and get down to the nitty gritty of what's really going on. And that's what I think I'm going to offer you as a subscriber to this channel, is what the real deal is. Um, I checked out this article. This article came out November 10th, 2013. So it was right before the launch of the systems. And this article uh, basically word for word proves from a technical standpoint that the PS4 and the Xbox One are equal as far as technical specs, what they're bringing to the table, ecosystem, as far as what the hardware presents. Um, and a few of the paragraphs I want to highlight is this first paragraph. Um, Not want to read it word for word, but I'll probably read a little bit. Let's see. It said, finally, there's memory, other areas where the systems are pretty different from one another. Both include 8 gigabyte pool of system RAM that is shared between CPU and GPU. The PS4 uses fast 5500 megahertz GDDR5 RAM, the type that you might find on modern graphics card, while the Xbox One uses slower 2133 megahertz DDR3 RAM, like what you might find in the standard issue PC. I'm sorry. Um, Both consoles use 256-bit memory bus, giving the PS4 theoretical memory bandwidth of roughly 176 gigabytes per second, while the Xbox gets a bandwidth of around 68.26 gigabytes per second because of its slower clock speed. What it is breaking down both GPUs, well, basically the system on the chips and what it's offering as far as what it's using for system RAM. Now, GDDR3 is not typically used for system RAM. It's normally used for graphics RAM, for graphics cards. And but PS4 had decided to use it for graphics as well as system RAM. And the thing with the Xbox One is using DDR3 RAM, but as you will learn in the next paragraph, it's like let me read it. It looks like, as with the GPU, the Xbox One will fall behind there, but things aren't actually so straightforward. Microsoft has also included 32 megabytes of high-speed ES RAM integrated directly onto the processor die. Basically, the system on the chip basically holds the CPU and the GPU, and in that, on that processor die, which is basically the area where the CPU and GPU reside, there is this 32 megabyte SRAM that resides with it. So it's all together. And said 32 megabyte doesn't sound like much compared to the 8 gigabyte pool of system RAM, but it makes up for its small size by being much faster. Things sent to the ESRAM do not have to travel out to main memory and back, which both increases bandwidth and reduces latency. What it means basically is typically the CPU runs through, typically sends its commands through the bus to the system RAM to typically store its information, whereas the GPU normally, and even on the motherboard, the GPU is on kind of like on one side of the motherboard, and the CPU is on the other side. Well, system on a chip, they're on both chips on one die, so that's like all on one part of the board together. So typically, the CPU only just sends its commands through the system RAM DDR3, and the GPU only sends its commands to the GDDR memory or whatever classifies as graphics memory, and it goes through the bus as far as, and then goes through the bus, and then the operating system comes in to differentiate and use whatever method to recognize, hey, this is what came from the GPU, and then also if they need to basically, I know it sounds like I'm all over the place, but basically if the CPU needs to communicate with the GPU, it has to go through the operating system, through drivers and stuff of that sort. That's why you need drivers to for the operating system to communicate with the GPU as well as the CPU, because of it constantly communicate with both in order to integrate and make it a whole ecosystem. So, yeah. Sound. I'm trying to. The reason why I sound like that is because I'm trying to break it down to where you can understand what I'm saying. If you don't have the technical expertise or don't really understand it, but in this case, with the 32 megabyte ESRAM, it doesn't have to go back to the DDR3 to communicate with the CPU or the GPU. It just basically communicates directly to them without having to go to the system RAM. Basically, get reducing the latency, increasing the bandwidth to where it's real fast to communicate directly with the CPUs and the GPUs. So it doesn't have to go through DDR3 in order to communicate with them. It just communicates directly to them, and it's just a faster process. Um, and basically, it goes on to talk about the theoretical bandwidth of SRAM, which is two 18 gigabytes per second, and that's 109 gigabytes traveling in either direction. Whether it's like it's going to be 109 gigabits per second going to the CPU, or 109 going to the GPU. Basically, in reality, it's going to be closer to 200 megabytes. I mean gigabytes per second. So with ESRAM, it basically makes the GPU and the CPU, well, mainly the GPU in its functionality, a lot faster, theoretically and practically, than what GDDR5 does, as far as theoretical and practical, um, because of the high bandwidth. The problem that Microsoft has been having is it's new technology, and developers don't know how to use it yet. Where they didn't have the problem, they use SD or EDRAM or EDRAM in the 360, which they already knew how to use that. ESRAM is more newer technology. They don't have a lot of systems using it, so they're not familiar with it. So they're like, we're just going to use the DDR3 RAM to make our games. Thus, you have the conundrum of games not reaching 1080p, they're going 792p and 900p and all that stuff. It's because of that. Um, Trying to kind of rush through it because I don't want to make this video long, but that's the main differences and the reason why you've been seeing that. from a technical standpoint. Um, and also, that's why you see Sony not being able to really do true multitasking because they're using graphics RAM as system RAM, and it doesn't equate itself or give the flexibility for PlayStation to really do true multitasking like Xbox does, because Xbox basically has three operating systems, two VMs running on a host, VM host, which goes in between both operating systems. You know, one for games, one for apps. That's why you can get Snap on your screen, watch TV on your Snap screen, and then also play the game on the rest of the screen, because you have one virtual operating system running just nothing but the game, and then you have another operating system running the Snap option, which is an app, and it brings up that feed to the TV, and you can do that. That's why when they finally bring about the smart glass where you can watch TV on your device, there'll be an operating system controlling that, which would probably be the app operating system, and the game you can still play the game on your TV because there's a whole nother operating system running that, and there's a host in between them orchestrating everything that's communicating with the hardware. Just breaking it down. So, so this one is one. Let's see here. It's one thing I want to highlight real quick, and it's basically proving the point I was making. It's this paragraph right here, and I want to read. I just want to highlight it because it's proving the point I was trying to make in making the series, in making this video, that basically these systems are exactly the same, just different ways of getting there, but they're both the same. Two different means of getting the power and performance of next gen technology, but there's two different ways of doing it. It says, in case we certainly aren't looking at the kind of difference in graphic quality you see in some cross-platform games from earlier in the PS3 and the 360 generation, where graphical details could differ significantly between platforms. As we mentioned, these two consoles are largely capable of rendering the exact same scene in the exact same way. I repeat that. They're capable of rendering the exact same scene in the exact same way, even though the Xbox One has a slightly faster CPU. The PS4 has a larger GPU because it's using graphics memory, and there's a lot of shaders and cache within that in that system, that it can store more memory or temporary information faster. It's like one big old bowl. You're just putting all your stuff in it. So the PS4 has a larger GPU, and both consoles take different approaches. Here we go. Different approaches to delivering developers similar amounts of memory and memory bandwidth. Basically, two different approaches to the same goal. All right? Different approaches to delivering developers similar amounts of memory and memory bandwidth. So basically, that is PS4, Xbox One. Basically, there's two different approaches to bring next gen games to us. Basically, as far as memory and memory bandwidth, how fast the information gets there, how fast the the frame rates are, the graphics, as far as the the P's and the textures and the and all that stuff. Which, let me tell you, 1080p is not as important. 1080p is not as important as 60 frames per second in a game. The frames per second are more important because they deal with the smoothness of a game. I would much rather have a game running at 60 frames per second than I would have a game run at 1080p. Only because you're going to have a more smoother game, as far as the movements, the transitions, and how things look. And also the textures, anti-aliasing, all that stuff does not have to do with 1080p. 1080p is basically dealing with the clarity of your picture, how clear the picture is. Where if you notice 720p, it looks good. It looks good. You can tell a slight difference based on how big your TV is. If you don't have a TV bigger than 47 inches, really not gonna tell that much of a difference because you're gonna need those pixels to show, you know what I'm saying, the clarity. You know, it's just like looking through a window. If your window has a little film on the front, you know, just a slight film. If after it rains, it has a little film, you have to wipe it down or whatnot. That's 720p. But once you put that Windex on it, you wipe it real clean. That's 1080p. I mean, you can tell a difference, but it's not much of a difference, and it doesn't really make a difference as far as textures, particle effects. Those are the more important things that you should worry about in the video game. Case in point, Spider-Man. The Spider-Man game that came out, it was 1080p, but it looked still looked 360ish. You know what I'm saying? The particle effects wasn't there. In compared to, let's say, Infamous. I mean, it's a big night and day difference between those two games. Both are 1080p, but the textures are different. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I wanted to close out the series on. Thank you guys for listening to this video, looking at this video. Subscribe, comment, share, like. I'm going to put other guys that I listen to and everything in the description. Go subscribe to those guys. Those great guys. Till we meet again, be good. Stay tuned. Videos are coming out. I promise.
They say life is like a box of chocolates. But what do that mean to the diabetic? Rappers full of crap and they lyrical like a predicate. It's me who they pissing off, and my lyrical is a diuretic. If I let it. My city a bunch of Ruger kinetic movers. D1 killers.